Well, let's bring in Dr. Salaudeen Hashin, who is the Director of Programs at Clean Foundation, to speak on the proposed police reforms. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Before we talk about the reforms, we must first talk about the challenges. And to that heartbreaking report, for any Nigerian, it should be understaffed, under-equipped, yet we're losing over 200 policemen in 2 years, between 2023 and 2024, to armed robbers, bandits, lynching. It was a heartbreaking report to read today. So how do we expect the police to really protect us if we don't protect them? We're losing them in such numbers.
Absolutely. The case of casualty ratio within the police has actually increased between the last few years, and that is as a result of the various theaters of operations that is going across the country. Currently, there are quite a number of theaters that are littered across the southeast, northeast, and the northwest, and all of these were to confront some of those security insurgencies that the country is currently confronted with. Unfortunately, the challenge really lies with the inability of effective oversight to be able to now put some queries, because again, that report should translate into query, and those queries should be able to get some certain level of responses. And the first query should be, what exactly had led to the death of that number, and why are we having that level of increase? And if that is the case, it therefore means that there should be somebody who is actually answering for that. And that also leads to the fact that police is also losing the inability to get itself properly equipped, because again, if you have adequate capability to be able to respond to threats, opportunities are there that you will not be losing your men in that droves. So what we have seen with that report suggests very clearly that we have acute deficits in the level of equipment that the police and the policing infrastructures are actually using to respond to threats. And that also is translating to the increased level of fatalities that we are recording.
Dr. Hashin, let's talk about balance. Now, you have public perception of police in Nigeria being marred by allegations of misconduct, excessive force, as we've seen in some protests. But now we also have police force under siege. So how do we then strike that balance between holding police accountable and ensuring their own protection?
Yeah, particularly if you look at the work of Robert Peel, it talked about the issue of policing and the community, because police is actually a mirror of the entire society. So if you are talking about protection and you are talking about the issue of accountability, it should be the whole of society and the whole of government approach. So to be very honest, there is no way you can talk about having to protect the entire society, as it were, on a matrix of functionality that you would not directly or indirectly be protecting the law enforcement agent itself. Because again, if you check the political economy and look at the fact that there is some level of decline in economy infrastructure around the country, it therefore tells you that if you respond to the issue of economy, you are likely going to have a decline in the level of criminality. What it would translate into would therefore mean that there will be some level of reduction in the number of people who wants to either perceive or want to attack the police. So what we are seeing is actually an entire value chain of crime that is actually the inability of government to put its coercive power, to put its economic power, and to also put some of the administrative power into helping to frame the society in such a way that will balance it out. And once that is done, it would automatically have some level of positive effect on the entire police force.
Well, today you had security experts converge for a summit on police accountability and the need for police reforms. You know, we talk about police reforms all the time. Yeah. We are reforming. What exactly is the reform we need with our policing system? Is it about increasing their salaries? I mean, we've changed uniforms at some point. You know, we're saying we're going to withdraw them from VIPs. We're going to remove roadblocks. What exactly is the reform that will stick and ensure that we have a professional police force that Nigerians, you know, can align with and can respect?
Post-democratic Nigeria, police reform has actually become a slogan. So reform should move from sloganeering to practical action. And of course, that is one of the reasons why we put together the summit today. And if you check the Police Act 2020, the enactment of that act is actually a desire to achieve an effective and modern policing. with three fundamental pillars. One is transparency, the second is accountability, and the third is the respect for the rule of law and the rights of citizens. And if you check all of these, there are also byproducts that actually comes out of it. Reform comes from your ability to be able to redesign existing structure that is going away from traditional system. Because again, if you have a traditional setup that says that, okay, you have a new police act, but you don't have a modern regulation, it is actually an internal clash of normative framework. You cannot have a new act with an old regulation. It's actually like driving a new car with a deflated tire. And you're likely not going to go anywhere.
So it starts with the law?
Absolutely, because there are frameworks within the system that help you to operationalize the modern act. Look, if you check the Police Act, the Police Act 2020, the ACJL, they're one of the most progressive frameworks that we have had in this country. But why are they not being operationalized? It is because we have an old regulation that is helping to carry this new act, and of course it therefore means that you cannot carry it anywhere because the regulation is still very old. So we must have to review the regulation that would actually sync with the new act for purposes of gaining mileage in terms of delivery and service delivery. That is exactly what we are dealing with. And within that regulation, there are a number of things that actually needs to be addressed.
Joseph Hashin, can we take some sort of notes from other countries, say like Rwanda, Ghana, that have made some strides when it comes to reforming their police forces, technology integration, better training, community engagement? And I also wanted you to speak on sort of reorientation of the mindset of the police force. Yeah. Is that something that we can look at?
Yeah, that is about democratic policy. Look, the issue of value reorientation begins when you set out to really redesign the existing template. What we have currently, from the time you get into the police college and you get out, your mind is already framed in a particular way. And I'm sure you are familiar with the story when Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, the former president, visited police college. What we saw was gory sight. You cannot have your officers baked in that kind of environment and expect a modern and progressive officer to be out there. Go to the police barracks everywhere in the country. Police barracks are not the places you want to stay. If you go to medical facilities owned by the police, it is entirely deficit. Police children's school cannot even accommodate their own children. So you have a lot of civilian children who are also the ones going to police children's school. So you'll find out that the society itself has actually ostracized most of the personnel. Their welfare is actually not attended to. Their post-traumatic health disorder, because of the kind of work that they do, is also not attended to. The operations, they don't have adequate and modern equipment. That in itself is also an issue. Most of these guys are not skilled. They don't have the capability. They don't have the capacity. And if you check, most importantly, is that political influence in the policing is one of the key gaps that has also affected what we are seeing today. So you see society where some people in the community have been touted to be bad guys. Then because they are political allies to some people, political thugs, then they are recommended to be hired into the police. And that, of course, has been our major bane.
Very quickly, this is coming when we are looking closer to getting state police. We're just waiting for the final report from the National Economic Council with the delay by some 3 states and the FCT. Is that part of the reforms? Would that help? Because it does look like we know the challenges and we talk about them at every summit such as yours today, but we remain at the same spot. So another slogan we are used to in Nigeria is political will. Yeah. So how difficult is that? I mean, if we know the challenges, why is it not moving? Who is against the Nigeria police force progressing?
Yeah, I think again, like the IG had said at some point that Nigeria is not ripe for state police. I like state policing, but I don't like state police. And of course, that is my personal opinion. And that is because state policing is an aggregation of efforts by all policing institutions to be able to help contain, prevent crime. But when you have state police, tendencies are there that it will be politicized. Case of Rivers State recently, where the court had issued that the police should be pulled out from the elections. And you have a state police, that would be some level of clash in that kind of instance. You recall instances where some 2 states have issues with boundary-related conversations. conversation. Issue that borders around resource control, oil issues, and you have state policing. Tendencies are there that coercive powers will actually be deployed. But my point is that there should be an audit, but state policing infrastructure should actually be deployed. Western security network, like the Amoteco that we have in the West, is actually complementary some of the efforts that we have. And that, for me, should be some kind of progressive effort before we have a sustainable state policing arrangement in the country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Salaudeen Hashin, Director of Program Clean Foundation, who has been speaking to us about reforms in Nigeria Police Force and also alarming reports that we've been getting of police personnel being killed in the line of duty.